بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ السلام علیکم ناظرین، آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں ہدایت میگزین۔ میرا نام توقیر عباس ہے۔ ناظرین، جیسے کہ آپ کو معلوم ہے کہ اس وقت یمن کی صورتحال انتہائی کشیدہ ہے، تو اسی حوالے سے ہم نے اس پروگرام کو یمن کے مناسبت سے رکھا ہے، اور وہاں پر جو اس وقت سعودیہ کی طرف سے اور اس کے جو الائز ہیں ان کی طرف سے جو ایک آپریشن کیا جا رہا ہے، اس حوالے سے ہم بات کریں گے۔ ہمارے ساتھ ناروے سے ڈاکٹر ریحان رضا نقوی جرنلسٹ ہیں، پولیٹیکل کمنٹیٹر ہیں، پریس ٹی وی کے کورسپونڈنٹ ہیں، وہ موجود ہوں گے۔ اس کے ساتھ یمن سے ہمارے ساتھ جرنلسٹ ہیں پریس ٹی وی کے یوسف ماوری، وہ بھی ہمارے ساتھ موجود ہوں گے۔ ہم ان سے لیٹسٹ ڈیولپمنٹس جو یمن کے حوالے سے ہو رہی ہیں ان پر بات کریں گے۔ آپ انگلش میں بولیں گے، لیکن ہم کوشش کریں گے کہ اس کو اردو یا آپ کو سمجھ آ جائے گی۔ سب سے پہلے میں آپ کو تھوڑا سا بتاتا چلوں یمن کی صورتحال کے حوالے سے، چونکہ یمن اس وقت فوکس ہے سب چیزوں کا، جہاں پہ عرب لیگ کا اجلاس بھی کل ہم نے دیکھا اور اس میں اہم فیصلے بھی ہوئے۔ ہم نے کوشش کی ہے کہ کچھ بیک گراؤنڈ یمن کی صورتحال کے حوالے سے آپ کے سامنے پیش کریں کہ یمن کا جو مسئلہ ہے یہ ایک دم سے اس ابھر کر سامنے نہیں آیا، بلکہ یہ ایک پرانا مسئلہ چلا آ رہا تھا۔ میں تھوڑا سا آپ کو ہسٹری تھوڑی سی بتاتا ہوں کہ لیٹسٹ ہسٹری کیا تھی کہ 2002 نومبر میں یو ایس نے ایک فیصلہ کیا کہ وہاں کی یمنی جو اسپیشل فورسز ہیں ان کو ٹرین کیا جائے القاعدہ سے لڑنے کے لیے۔ تو امریکہ کی اسپیشل فورسز وہاں پہ گراؤنڈ پہ گئیں اور انہوں نے ٹرین کیا یمنی اسپیشل فورسز کو ٹو فائٹ اگینسٹ القاعدہ۔ اس کے علاوہ اگر 2012 میں یہ بیچ میں جو عرصہ تھا یہ کشیدگی رہی۔ 2004 میں جو وہاں کی موجودہ حکومت کے رکن تھے علی عبداللہ صالح، جو معزول پریزیڈنٹ تھے، انہوں نے حوثیوں کے خلاف ایک کیمپین چلائی اور وہاں سے یہ کشیدگی زیادہ بڑھی۔ فروری 2012 میں جو یو ایس بیکڈ پریزیڈنٹ تھے، پریزیڈنٹ ہادی، جو ابھی اس وقت کہا جا رہا ہے کہ مصر سے سعودیہ کی طرف دوبارہ آگے ہیں سمٹ میں شرکت کرنے کے بعد، انہوں نے حلف اٹھایا۔ سپٹمبر 2014 میں حوثی جو قبائل ہیں انہوں نے کیپٹل صنعا پہ قبضہ کر لیا۔ جنوری 2015 میں پریزیڈنٹ ہادی اور اس کی گورنمنٹ نے ریزائن کر دیا تھا۔ فروری 2015 میں ایمبیسیز اور دوسرے جتنے ڈپلومیٹس کے رہائش گاہیں تھیں ان کو ختم کر دیا گیا، اور جتنے سفارتکار تھے ان کو وہاں سے نکل جانے کے لیے کہا، کیونکہ سیکیورٹی کی سچویشن اتنی اچھی نہیں تھی۔ مارچ 2015 میں پریزیڈنٹ جو ابھی ہیں، پہلے انہوں نے ریزائن کیا لیکن بعد میں انہوں نے کہا کہ مجھے ہاؤس اریسٹ کیا گیا ہے اور اس کی وجہ سے مجھ پہ پریشر ڈال کے مجھ سے ریزگنیشن لیا گیا ہے۔ وہ ان نون پلیس پہ چلے گئے، لیکن بعد میں ہم نے دیکھا کہ سعودی اسٹیٹ ٹی وی کی جانب سے بتایا گیا کہ وہ سعودی عرب میں موجود ہیں۔ اس وقت جو جنگ جاری ہے سعودی عرب کی اور الائز کی جانب سے، اس کے بارے میں اگر میں آپ کو تھوڑا سا بتاؤں تو سعودی عرب کو جو ملٹری سپورٹ حاصل ہے وہ یو اے ای، بحرین، قطر، کویت، جارڈن، ایجپٹ اور سوڈان کی جانب سے ہے۔ اس کے علاوہ جو دوسری سپورٹ ہے اس میں یو ایس، یو کے، فرانس، ٹرکی، موراکو اور بیلجیم کی طرف سے، اور ساتھ میں پاکستان کی طرف سے بھی حمایت شامل ہے۔ اس ملٹری آپریشن جس کو نام دیا گیا ہے فیصلہ کن طوفان، ڈیسائسو سٹورم، سعودی عرب کی جانب سے، اس کی مخالفت میں جو ملک ہیں ان میں ایران ہے، چائنا نے بھی اس کو کہا ہے کہ یہ آپریشن جو ہے اس پر انہوں نے اپنے اعتراضات کا اظہار بھی کیا ہے۔ اس کے علاوہ رشیا نے بھی مخالفت کی ہے اس آپریشن کی جو سعودی سربراہی میں ہو رہا ہے۔ اس حوالے سے ہمارے ساتھ موجود ہیں یمن سے یوسف ماوری، ہم ان سے لیٹسٹ ڈیولپمنٹ کے بارے میں پوچھیں گے۔ سب سے پہلے میں آپ کو تھوڑا سا بتاؤں، جو حوثی ریبلز جن کو کہا جا رہا ہے کہ جو یمن میں ہیں، ان کو نہ صرف हौसी हैं उस कबीले में, उसमें ज़ैदी हैं, उसमें सुन्नी ग्रुप्स हैं जो उनकी सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। इसके अलावा लेफ्टिस्ट ग्रुप्स भी हौसियों की मदद के लिए वहाँ मौजूद हैं। प्रेसिडेंट हादी जो इस वक्त कहा जा रहा है कि सऊदीया में हैं, वो इतने उनको पसंद नहीं किया जा रहा था, जिसकी वजह से ये कैंपेन चली और उनको रिज़ाइन करना पड़ा। सबसे पहले अभी मैं शामिल करूँगा यूसुफ मौरी। कैन यू हियर यूसुफ मौरी?
Yes, I can hear you a little bit. I can hear you very clearly.
Thank you very much for joining us. Can you tell us about the latest situation in Yemen? What's happening in Yemen now?
Well, yes, right now it is about 4:05 p.m. The bombardment, the airstrikes, the air assault is about to take place in another in 3 hours from now. That's when the airstrikes are conducted. It looks like the Saudi coalition is ruthlessly trying to destroy all of the Houthi-run military bases here in the capital, Sana'a. They're targeting military bases in the North Province of Sada. They're also targeting radar stations in the Eastern Province of Madad. They're also leading a number of strikes in the southern port city of Aden in Black Province. Also in a number of places where these military preparations are taking place. Again, the Yemeni people, they're very frustrated. They are terrified. They feel like they are trapped, not just in Sana'a, but throughout the country, because these bombardments and these assaults are taking place in more than just one location, of course. And there's also many American citizens here who are frustrated with the U.S. because they have not presented an evacuation plan for its citizens, and there's thousands of families over here who are just waiting to leave the country. They want to evacuate because they are in fear that this will most likely end up being a full-scale war, which could spark a regional war if peaceful dialogue is not reached immediately between the opposing sides.
Okay, Yusuf, we want to know here, while living in the UK, we actually don't know what Houthis are. I mean, we say Houthi rebels, and Western media and the mainstream media, they portray that Houthis are Shias. What do you say about this?
The Ansarullah movement, it consists of various sects. There are Shias that are part of this group, and there's also Zaidi Yemenis who feel that they are closer to the Sunni ideology, and some Zaidis who are closer to the Shia ideology. Nevertheless, they are Muslim, and the Yemeni people view them, of course, as their Muslim brothers, despite their religious affiliation. What this is turning out to be, it's turning out to be a sectarian war, and I think the main reason for this is because the world powers, along with Saudi Arabia, they're trying to frame this as a war between Sunnis and Shias, and this is simply not the case. Yes, the Houthis are closer to the Shia ideology. However, the Yemeni people have not witnessed a Shia agenda here in Yemen. And this is why there's actually this is why you have Ali Abdullah Saleh, the former ruler, some of his loyalists who have joined the Houthi front, because they feel that this is a push to restore dignity and to establish an independent sovereign nation free of all types of Western intervention. Now, before this war, and this 10 years ago, you will have many Yemenis who will tell you that Sunnis and Zaidis used to pray in the same mosque. There never used to be any type of religious discourse between Zaidis and Sunnis. Now, Yemen is mainly consisting of Sunnis. The Zaidi population, I think, is estimated at 30 to 35 of the population are considered to be Zaidi. Within the Zaidi movement itself, within the Zaidis, there are some Zaidis who are closer to the Sunni school of thought, and there are some who are closer to the Shia school of thought. And I think, as this war progresses forward, I think sectarian elements are playing a bigger role now that this war and this conflict has reached the global eye, the global media eye, and I think this has potential to actually turn into a sectarian war because I don't think regional powers or the West have done the necessary job, or they haven't committed to their obligation of trying to restore stability here in Yemen. I think for the most part, the international community has failed to restore security and stability. For the main purpose, and the main reason for that is because they've sort of framed this as a war between Sunnis and Shias. And actually, if you were to look at the political framework of Yemen, the government structure prior to the Houthis takeover of Sana'a and prior to the 2011 revolution, you will see that the Yemen government did not represent the Yemen people, and it only represented the interests of corrupt officials who are only serving the plans of Saudi Arabia and of course the U.S. So change was inevitable. Change had to come, and in 2014, the Houthi movement carried the slogan of change and to build an independent country, and this is why it was able to attract a large portion of the Sunni population here in Yemen who actually rallied behind them in support. However, you still, of course, have those who are opposed to the Houthis. You have the Yemen Islah Party, you have Salafis in Yemen who are opposed to the Houthis and who are actually who have engaged with them in a number of battles in the north of the country. And this is what it's turning into right now. We have the Salafis and we have Yemen Islah Party who are basically raising the flag of Sunni Islam, and this is and they're leading people under that flag to counter what they are perceiving as a Shia takeover of Yemen.
Okay. Yusuf, we'll come back to you as well. Again, now I'm going to ask Dr. Rehan Raza Naqvi about the same situation in Yemen that the media is trying to portray it as a sectarian war. While if we look into the history, we see that in Yemen, Sunni and Shia pray in the same mosque, and actually it's not a sectarian war, it's war of rights and representation. What do you say?
Yes, thanks, Tawqeer. Yusuf has just explained very well the situation in Yemen and the history, and it's clear that it is not a sectarian issue. And I cannot give you an answer as good as Yusuf Mauri's answer, but what I have followed in the media and what I've seen is that it is not a sectarian issue, but the mainstream media portrays it as a Shia-Sunni war. But they have done so also in case of other issues. For instance, in the case of Syria, they also call it a Shia-Sunni issue, and they often distort the reality. For example, in the case of President Assad, Bashar al-Assad, he's not a Shia. He belongs to the Alawite, group, which often is considered as some people consider it even completely distant from Shiism and a different religion. But they continuously call it sort of Shia offshoot, Shia-Sunni war, and they've done the same in the case of Yemen. While it is a movement against imperialism. If you look at the slogans of the Houthis, they're against America, they're against Israel, they talk against imperialism, they talk against hegemony of global and regional powers, and they include groups like Shias and Sunnis and Zaydis and all sorts of groups. And it clearly is not a Shia-Sunni issue.
It's not Shia-Sunni issue. So what do you think that why Saudi Arabia has attacked Yemen at this time, at this point of time?
The thing is they've been always wary of what goes on across the border. Like they are also worried about the northern borders. That in Iraq there is a Shia majority country, and they fear that Iran has a considerable influence in that country. And then to the south they have Yemen, and they believe that Iran is supporting the Houthis, who one day might prove to be sort of danger to Saudi Arabia, not literally in the sense of like they're going to threaten their territory, but when you have a movement, anti-imperialism movement at your border, then that is going to affect your country as well. And what happened that actually Saudi invasion of Yemen is not new. It has happened in 2009, 2010 as well, and I do not understand why there is not much discussion about that. There is not much mentioning of that invasion in the mainstream media. Mm-hmm. What happened is that there was a conflict going on between the Houthis and the Yemeni military at that time, and the Houthis, in order to attack the Houthis, what happened is that the Yemeni army got positions inside the Saudi territory that was north of the Houthis. So they got into Saudi Arabia, and then they used that location, that position, to attack the Houthis. And in a retaliation, the Houthis attacked some of the guards, the Saudi guards, or the border, military at the border. And as a result of that, the Saudi Air Force pounded the Houthi areas for several days and attacked the Houthis, and there was bloodshed. And it was quite horrible. If you look at the videos of that operation, which is called Scorched Earth, Operation Scorched Earth. So Saudis somehow fear that at some time the Houthis could also, have proposed to be a threat also on its physical borders, but much more when it comes to its ideological borders.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Yusuf, what do you say about Houthis and President Hadi? What were the differences? Were there any political differences or any religious differences? What do you say?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear it clearly. Can you just repeat it real quick?
I was saying that between Houthi and the President Hadi, that the tension between them two was because of the political differences or any religious difference?
No, I wouldn't say there were any religious differences between the concept of Abdul Mansur Hadi and the Houthi movement. You can't forget, the Houthis, they came all the way from the North Province of Sa'da, and it was a journey from Sa'da all the way to the Yemeni capital. And on their way from Sa'da to Sana'a, they managed to eliminate most of the forces which were loyal to Abdul Mansur Hadi, and most of the Sunni tribesmen who were loyal to Yemen's Islah Party and General Ali Muhsin al-Ahmad, who the Houthis disarmed upon their entrance to Sana'a. So along the way, they actually made a lot of enemies. They made a lot of enemies, Sunni tribesmen, and with the added element of political factions here in Yemen, raising the sectarian, the sectarian flag that this is a Shia takeover. The Houthis were actually able to attract a lot of enemies, while concurrently attracting a lot of supporters. Throughout their journey, they also coordinated alliances with Sunni tribesmen who basically paved the way for them to enter Sana'a. And after they entered Sana'a, they were also able to advance south of the country and take over the province of Al-Bayda, which was an Al-Qaeda stronghold. They were also able to take over the Ib province, and of course, we've seen their latest advancements in Najd province and Aden, and now today and yesterday they actually entered the southern province of Shabwa and the southern province of Abyan, and these are two of Al-Qaeda's main strongholds. So back to your question, there isn't any religious differences between the former President Abdul Mansur Hadi and the Houthis. This was the Houthis, they basically had a goal from day one, and that was to eliminate, the corrupt officials who are not meeting and not catering to the demands of the Yemeni people. That goal was able to reach Sana'a, and this objective carried and persisted throughout other regions of the country. The Houthis, like I said, they made enemies, and they also made a lot of alliances as well. However, they are considered right now to be the strongest force on the ground. They've eliminated the army base of Abu Muslim al-Ahmad, who is a rival enemy to the Houthi movement, who would always attack the Houthis, their ideological beliefs. And this was an entity that would always carry the slogan of this is an Iranian Shia takeover of Yemen. That entity, however, it was eliminated, and now the Houthis are the strongest force in Yemen. And just as they were about to take over the southern port city of Aden, that's when we had Saudi Arabia and the coalition states intervene militarily.
So the intervention of Yusuf, the intervention of Saudi Arabia, or you say that invasion of Saudi Arabia, whatever you say that, but what you say if I say that Saudi Arabia has invaded a sovereign country, is it right? Yusuf?
Hello?
Yeah, I was saying that what if I say Saudi Arabia has invaded a sovereign country, is it right?
I'm sorry, I can't make out what you're saying. It doesn't sound very good. Can you just say a little slower so I can hear the question?
So I was saying that the invasion of Saudi Arabia, or the attack of Saudi Arabia with the help of many countries on Yemen, can you call it invasion on a sovereign country?
Well, according to the Yemeni Constitution, according to the creed of any nation, yes, this is considered an invasion. What else would it be when you have, 10 nations engaging in this campaign to destroy a Yemeni movement? And there's no other way to describe it except for being a full invasion of Yemen. And this invasion is coming with a lot of aspects. This is just an air invasion. However, as we will see unfold throughout the days and perhaps the weeks, this will actually these airstrikes are paving the way for a ground invasion. And Saudi Arabia has mentioned that it has deployed 150,000 troops on the ground near its border, Wasada, for a possible ground invasion. Egypt has also mentioned that it will also coordinate with Saudi Arabia to deploy armed troops in the southern port city of Aden. And these airstrikes that are taking place, their main objective, one, is to eliminate or to disable the Houthis' military might, and two, it's to force the Houthis to withdraw from the places which they have taken over. But the question that many people should raise is, why did Saudi Arabia wait until the Houthis entered the south port city of Aden? If they felt that the Houthis were a threat, why did they not intervene in the beginning, in September or in October, prior to the Houthis entering Sana'a? There are many people who will actually tell you that Saudi Arabia, it has an insidious plot to allow the Houthis to expand and to sort of, quote unquote, take over the country, so that way it can rally up supporters from the region to say, well, look, there goes the Shia takeover of Yemen. They came from Saudi and they took over the whole country. We have to get involved. We have to start bombarding the entire nation in order to eliminate this threat. And this was clearly indicated in the speeches which were made in the Arab Summit. All of these officials who were speaking on behalf of their nation, they basically said the same thing, that this is a military coup and immediate action must be taken in order to prevent this Shia Iranian takeover of Yemen.
Okay, we'll discuss about the Irani role in this whole scenario later on. But I'm going to take on Dr. Rehan Rizanaqvi, as Yusuf mentioned about the ground invasion. What do you think after the decision they made in the Arab League that all the Arab countries have agreed to make a joint military force? What do you think, that are they preparing to invade Yemen on the ground?
Well, the thing is, the first question is that how, on what legal grounds can you invade a sovereign country, a member of the United Nations? Now, those who want to invade, they would say that we are invited by the government of Yemen to do so. Mm-hmm. And for that, they would say that President Hadi has actually, requested the Gulf Cooperation Council and others, international bodies, to come and invade Yemen and free it from the Houthis. But President Hadi, what is his legitimacy in the first place? And how did he come into power in the first place? He is not a democratically elected president in the first place, and he just came as part of a deal, came to power as part of the deal, and just stayed there, and then he resigned. And then he later on, a month later, he just said that, he rescinded his resignation and said that that deal is no longer, that agreement is no longer valid, and I'm still the president. And then he flees the country and he goes to the Saudis, and then the Saudis invade Yemen. So this is all illegal. This has no legal basis, and no matter what kind of twisted version of law and international law and justification you provide, it does not provide any legal basis to attack a country. So if the Arab League or any other country,
they say that because they captured very much of the government buildings and other things, so it was legitimate to invade because of the request President has made to the Arab nation.
Yeah, but the thing is, the president himself is not legitimate, and then he agreed to he resigned, and then there was a council.
But the resignation was under pressure. He says
this is what he's saying now. At that time, he agreed to the interim government, that body, for the certain period of time. But even if we say, okay, this is, it was under pressure, and even then it is an internal affair of Yemen,
and it should be resolved inside the country. Thank you, Dr. Rehan. We've got less time because we have to go to break. नाज़रीन, हमारा प्रोग्राम यमन के हवाले से है और हम बात कर रहे हैं डॉक्टर रेहान रिज़नक़वी नॉर्वे से और यूसुफ मावरी हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं यमन से। इस वक्त ब्रेक का टाइम है, ब्रेक के बाद हमारा प्रोग्राम जारी है, हमारे साथ रहिए।